how's it going? Nice to see you. I hope you've been doing well. Apologies for the slight delay in videos. I have filmed this video once before, had a technical issue with the sound, and then I was away for a week or so I ran out of content to post. What we're going to look at today are some Magic the Gathering cards. I found this box under my sofa. It says coloured rares on it, so hopefully it'll be good. I did take a quick peek just to make sure it wasn't full of bulk or basic lands, and there are coloured rares in here, so hopefully there'll be some interesting stuff. I'm not sure what sets it's going to be. I've been playing since Khans of Tarkir, and I played a little bit back when I was a lot younger, so there might be some older cards in here as well. I thought it'd be fun for us just to go through, take a look at what's inside, maybe talk about a few of the cards, and make some nice sounds. I think these boxes always make good sounds, actually. I hope everyone's doing well tonight. Hope you're feeling good. Thanks for coming back if you've been keeping up with the channel. Thanks for joining me for the first time if you're new. I'm just gonna move the mic in a little bit closer. Right, let's look at some cards. Go from the middle. Okay. That's a pretty random mix of cards, to be honest. They really need to stop falling over. Okay, hey, let's find out. Let's have a look together and see what we've got. I'll kick things off with a pretty forgettable rare from Dragons of Tarkir. That's Necromaster Dragon. I hope that's focusing okay. 3 blue and black for a 4/4 flying dragon. That's not too bad as it stands. Whenever Necromaster Dragon deals combat damage to a player, you may pay 2. If you do, put a 2/2 black zombie creature token onto the battlefield, and each opponent puts the top 2 cards of his or her library into his or her graveyard. That's okay, I suppose. That's okay. I mean, Dragons of Tarkir is what, 2015 now, so rares have pushed a bit further in a more powerful direction. I think if they printed that these days, you probably wouldn't need to pay 2. Okay, we've got something from Battle for Zendikar. Man, I really can't tell if that's auto-focusing or not. Sorry if it's not. Brutal Expulsion. 2 blue and red. Although this card is devoid, it has no colour, which most nothing mechanics ever, but you can choose one or both. Return target spell or creature to its owner's hand. Brutal Expulsion deals 2 damage to target creature or planeswalker. If that permanent would be put into a graveyard this turn, exile it instead. That's not a bad card. That's not a bad card. Yeah, returning a target spell or creature can be yours as well. And dealing 2 is usually going to get you a bit of a 2-for-1. I like that. Oh, this was a fun one. Blue, red and a white for Jeskai Ascendancy. So this was a cycle from the Khans of Tarkir set. Each of the 5 clans had an Ascendancy. This card still gets put in cubes and is a really fun one to build around. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. Untap those creatures. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you may draw a card. If you do, discard a card. So you could have some pretty fun turns with this, where you store up a couple of non-creature spells in your hand, give your creatures +3/+3 if you cast 3 non-creature spells, and that draw discard lets you just loot away the lands or creatures you don't need and keep this thing going. Not the most powerful card, but quite a bit of fun. Okay, we've got 3 copies of Fevered Visions. Fevered Visions is 1 blue and a red for an enchantment that says at the beginning of each player's end step, that player draws a card. If the player is your opponent and they have 4 or more cards in hand, Fevered Visions deals 2 damage to him or her. I guess I had probably another one of these somewhere and they were in a deck together. That card is not particularly strong. Obviously, if you're going hard and fast, you can try and get your opponent dead, but I don't tend to like putting cards in my decks that give the other players cards as well. Okay. So that card was from Shadows over Innistrad. I like that set quite a bit. We've got another card from Shadows over Innistrad here. The card is Welcome to the Fold. So, Welcome to the Fold. 2 blue for a sorcery. Gain control of target creature if its toughness is 2 or less. If the madness cost was paid, which is X blue, instead gain control of that creature if its toughness is X or less. So madness, really fun mechanic. If you discard this card, discard it into exile. When you do, cast it for its madness cost or put it into your graveyard. What that means is, if you discard this card, be it your opponent makes you decide to use an ability, you can instead pay X blue, and then you get the ability as well. So obviously there were great cards in the set that would let you draw a card, discard a card, so you get an extra card into your hand, toss this one away, and you actually get the value from it. You could also cast it outside of its normal timing restrictions, so you could cast this maybe in response to your opponent attacking, steal another one of their creatures, and then use that to block. It's a cool card. Some of these are not so much cool. Some really busted rares from that era that just don't do an awful lot. Why don't we go? Another little pile here. couple of older cards. From 6th edition, this is Dingus Egg. Dingus Egg is a 4-mana artifact, not a coloured rare. Who put this together? I've got some lands here as well. Whenever a land is put into a graveyard from play, Dingus Egg deals 2 damage to that land's controller. That is not very good, no matter which way you cut it, because it happens to you. Lands don't tend to go to the graveyard an awful lot, unless you're going to combine that with a Armageddon style effect and destroy a lot of lands. That's generally going to be 4 mana, do very little. But it's fun. We've got a very beaten up copy here of Glasses of Urza. 1 mana artifact. Tap it, you can look at target player's hand. When I played, this would have been a card I had when I was a lot younger, 13 or 14, and me and my friends thought that this was busted. We thought this was busted in half to be able to look at the target player's hand, but as a player now, looking at your opponent's hand, I'm not saying it's not useful, but it's a little bit overrated. Knowing what's coming doesn't really always let you play around it. I mean, when I play limited, I hate when my opponent uses look at your hand, choose a card to discard, because not only have they taken a card from you, they now know everything you've got. It does feel quite like you've been stripped back of a bit of defence of the mystery of what's in your hand when your opponent knows exactly what you've got. Especially if you are playing removal counter spells that just, they can go, well, you can, when they blood cast a creature that they know you're going to remove, it makes you not want to remove it at all because you know they've got something better and they've just sent that out for the sacrifice. It is fun. These cards have been put together with absolutely zero zero organisation, but it's kind of fun. We've got 2 pain lands here. Yavimaya Coast and Battlefield Forge. I think these are being reprinted in the new Dominaria set, actually. These ones are from Origins, which was a bit like a core set, maybe back in 2015 or 16. They both do the same thing, but with different colours of mana. You can tap it, add 1 generic mana to your mana pool, or add a green or a blue, and then the land deals 1 damage to you. So they're pretty versatile, and if you're going fast and you're just looking to take your opponent out, maybe more with the Battlefield Forge, that 1 damage doesn't matter if you're casting spells that you wouldn't have otherwise been able to cast, so flexible. Got a card I loved a lot back in the day. Workhorse. Okay, let's have a look at this card. 6 mana, artifact, creature. When it comes in play, it has 4 +1/+1 counters on it. Remove a +1/+1 counter from Workhorse. Add 1 colourless mana to your mana pool. Looking at it now, if you've already got 6 mana with which to play Workhorse, the 4 mana you could get from this card probably isn't going to be that useful, but it's still cool. It's still cool. Yeah, that's not good. That's not held up. But I just like the art. I really like the artwork on this card. I can't tell if my autofocus is on or not, because if it's not, I just shoved a really blurry card in your face. Okay, I'm going to go through some a little card I thought was going to be a big deal back when it came out in Origins. Yeah, Origins. Green 1 mana 1/1. When it deals combat damage to a player, if it isn't renowned, you get to put a +1/+1 counter on it and it becomes renowned. And if it's renowned, it has vigilance and tap, add 1 mana of any colour to your mana pool. Yeah. Because if the opponent has any creatures on their battlefield, it's a 1 mana 1/1 that does nothing. This card is always fun. Assault Formation, 1 and a green enchantment. Each creature you control assigns combat damage equal to its toughness rather than its power, which is, yeah, always really good fun. Pop that on a wall, because creatures with Defender can attack if you pay 1 green mana. But anything, you know, the crabs that tend to be 1/5s, or a card that's like a 3/7, suddenly it's attacking for 7. The 1/5 goes from being a defender pretty much exclusively to a 5/5 with this card on the battlefield. This was a card I loved back in the day. Ivy Elemental, X and a green. It comes into play with X, 1/1 counters on it. Pay 3 mana, it's a 2/2. Pay 6 mana, it's a 5/5. This card has been thoroughly bested by the cards that are available today. There's the Stone Coil Serpent, which is just X. It has +1/+1 counters on it, and it's got abilities as well. Lumbering Fools, this is always a really good card. These cards, man lands, always really useful. It's a land that enters the battlefield tapped, but I can add a green or blue to your mana pool, and you can pay 2 green and blue, and it becomes a 3/3 green and blue elemental creature with hexproof until end of turn, still a land. That means later in the game, these lands that are very hard to target because they're only creatures on your turn can start attacking. So even if you're running out of gas or you're just controlling the game, you can win the game with these. Okay, I've got a few more rares to look at. I'll probably run this video for 25 minutes or so, and we can slowly work our way through this box together. Shatterstorm from 6th edition. Destroy all artifacts, they can't be regenerated. This is another card. I think my friend really liked this one. Molten Influence, 1 and a red. Counter target instant or sorcery spell. Unless its controller has Molten Influence, deal 4 damage to him or her. That's not a good card, because you never want to give your opponent the option, because if it's really important that the spell gets through, they'll pay the 4 life, otherwise they won't. And if they're not really running instants or sorceries, that card does nothing. Oh man, this card was a toughie. Desecration Demon. Desecration Demon. Desecration Demon. I think this was a big deal in Standard, but before my time, so I wouldn't know. It's from Theros, from 2012. 4 mana, 2 black for a 6/6 flying demon. At the beginning of each combat, any opponent may sacrifice a creature. If a player does, tap Desecration Demon and put a +1/+1 counter on it. So this just sits on the battlefield for only 4 mana and asks them to sacrifice a creature every turn until they run out of creatures, and then they've got a potentially an 8/8, 9/9, 10/10 flyer hitting them. Basically, you just had to sacrifice a creature every turn and pray you drew some removal. classic with beautiful art. Dark Ritual. Dark Ritual. Everyone's favourite card when they were younger. 1 black mana. Add 3 black mana to your mana pool. Really let you get ahead. On turn 1 you cast a 3-drop. Turn 2 you're casting a 4-drop. Really powerful in the right circumstances, but obviously you're spending a card, and if the order doesn't line up, if you don't have one of the pieces, the Dark Ritual or the 3-drop in your hand on turn 1, drawing these later in the game, very painful. Okay, we've got some Theros rares that don't do much. Mutilate from M13. 2 black. All creatures get -1/-1 until the end of turn for each swamp you control. That seems like a really powerful card to me. I've never heard much about it, but a wrath that you could potentially engineer a situation where you keep creatures and your opponent loses all of theirs sounds pretty powerful to me. I suppose the situation could be the other way round though, and you are going to get rid of all your creatures and they're going to keep some of theirs, which would be less than ideal. Okay, we've got a few more cards. Let's have a look. The next card we've got is Stalker Bloodsucker. 4 black for a 4/4 flyer. You can pay 1 and a black and discard a card, and it gets +2/+2 until end of turn. Now on its face that is a little overcosted for what we'd expect to see today, but you know what? You can do it any number of times. So if this thing's going to get through, you could potentially end the game on the spot if you paid 6 mana and just discarded 3 cards from your hand. This thing's going to hit for 10. But also in these sets, I think around this time there was some madness going on as well. So discarding a card, not always a downside. Classic art, not rare, but 1 and a black. It's terror. As I said, 1 and a black for an instant. It's got the old language on it. Bury target non-artifact, non-black creature. Absolutely classic artwork. Definitely used to scare me a little bit when I was younger. By Ron Spencer. And a really powerful card. Especially when you're playing, tabletop Magic. Slightly less powerful than Mind Twist. Mind Shatter. The cards do the same thing, but this one costs an extra mana. X black. Target player discards X cards at random. And it's crazy. I mean, Mind Twist, a great pick in. Is it Vintage Cube? I think it's Vintage Cube that it's in. Really powerful card. You add 1 extra black mana onto it and it's not really there. Point being with Mind Twist is maybe you're on the play. Turn 3, you can just, essentially him to Turarak them. Target player discards X cards, you pay 3 mana, so they're going to discard 2. And that can absolutely kill a game plan. Pair it with Dark Ritual, and suddenly your opponent's discarding 4 cards from their hand, and the game's as good as over. You add that extra 1 mana onto it, and it's just too slow. This card is cool. I really like this one. From Eldritch Moon. Voldaran Pariah. I love this card. I'd always pick it in draft. 3 black for a flyer. sacrifice 3 other creatures, transform, and then you get the Abolisher of Bloodlines. Abolisher of Bloodlines, which is a 6/5 flyer. And when you've sacrificed your 3 creatures to get the Abolisher of Bloodlines, target opponent sacrifices 3 creatures as well. So, paying 5 mana for a 6/5 flyer, hopefully you sacrifice 3 fairly rubbish creatures, and they sacrificed 3 really good creatures. That's game over right there. Alright, we're going to do 2 more cards. And they are going to be alright. 2 cards on different ends of the spectrum. Firstly, a card. This is from a Commander set, but I loved playing in Modern Masters Draft. I think it was Modern Masters 2, 2015. The set that had a lot of flashback, and it had Burning Vengeance, which was a enchantment that whenever you cast a card from your graveyard, it dealt 2 damage to any target, I think. And that is one of my favourite cards of all time. I love that card. And this card, called the Skybreaker, is 5 blue-red, hybrid mana. So you could pay 5 blue, 5 red, or 5 red-blue. And you can put a 5/5 elemental creature token with flying onto the battlefield. Now that's not that special, but it's got Retrace. You may cast this card from your deck graveyard by discarding a land card in addition to paying its other costs. So that then means you play this, get your 5/5 flyer for 7 mana, and then next turn you draw a land card. Don't worry, it's another 5/5 flyer. And if you're lucky, a Burning Vengeance trigger as well. Next turn, land card, don't worry, Retrace. You draw something you can actually do something with, that's great, but it turns every land for the rest of the game into a 5/5 flyer. I love this card. Now on the other end of the spectrum, this card sucks. 1 mana for an artifact. It's called Choo Bubble. Choo Bubble. It's from Visions in 1996, and it's terrible. Let's talk about it. 1 mana, cumulative upkeep 1, which meant you had to spend 1 mana every turn to keep it. Potentially that grew. I can never remember. I think cumulative upkeep meant you had to pay 1, then 2, then 3. If you play a card, any card, you bury Choo Bubble. Okay, so we're paying mana every turn, just to keep this thing around. If we play a card, Choo Bubble has to go to the graveyard. So what do we get? You can pay 2 mana, you can gain 1 life. That's it. So if you've got 10 mana in play, you're going to have to pay some of that upkeep anyway. And you can't do anything else to affect the battlefield, because if you do, you have to bury Choo Bubble. But let's say you just paid 4 mana for that cumulative upkeep. Now you can pay 6 mana and gain 3 life. God, it's terrible. That's so funny. They'd never print a card like that these days. Something that's just so genuinely poor. I don't know if that was the point, if they misunderstood how unimpactful that live game would be, but yeah. That's terrible. Okay, we've been through about 15% of the cards in here. Please do if you enjoyed the video. If you want any more Magic content, I will get some packs and do some openings, but it might be fun just to keep on skipping through some of these cards, going down a bit of memory lane. Yeah, but let me know if you like the video. Take care, and I'll speak to you soon.